I'm so excited to introduce you to the best website designers out there. We have a brand new partnership with Session Sites. It is where good therapy meets brilliant design, and they get your website switched over or built in less than 2 weeks. They fine tune your messaging, use science backed user experience methodology, and work exclusively with mental health professionals. In fact, new clients right now are going to get 3 free therapy marketing strategy calls with their creative director of Session Sites. If you book today, you're not going to want to miss this. Head on over to sessionsites.com/Joe. Again, that's sessionsites.com/Joe. Get the website of your dreams today. Sessionsites.com/Joe. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, session number 1164. I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast, where we help you to build a thriving private practice you absolutely love. You know, we did our state of private practice survey last year, and we found that marketing was the number one barrier that you all said that you have in regards to growing your practice. And so we are dedicating this entire month to making it Marketing Month. You know, we have 60 to 100,000 of you listening every single month, digging in, asking questions, just figuring out how to navigate this mental health world. And this month is all about marketing. Last month, if you missed it, we had our Even Better Year series. We covered a lot of different topics with the idea of taking steps in the right direction. And so we talked about creating evidence-based content with your clients. We talked about the unifying framework of psychotherapy. We talked about psychedelic medicine at the end of life. So all month, we had very interesting topics around having your year be even better than the year before, those small steps in the right direction. And next month, we're doing our Better Mental Wellness. I can't even say it. Better Mental Wellness series. You know, I had a practice called mental wellness counseling. You'd think I would never stumble over those two words together, but I do. And we're leaving that in. Today we have Adrienne Wilkerson with us. And Adrienne is a distinguished entrepreneur and co-founder and CEO of Beacon Media and Marketing, recognized on the Inc. 5000 list for excellence in digital marketing services. With over 2 decades of experience, she has specialized in corporate branding and strategic marketing, particularly in the healthcare and mental health sector. Adrienne is also the author of the new book, Digital Marketing for Mental Health. Adrienne, welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast.
Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you be one of our first guests for the marketing month. We were at the Mental Health Marketing Conference, and your team just blew my mind. They were so engaging. They were so present. You guys just did such a great job, and it's indicative of the kind of work you're doing in the marketing world. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, let's start with one thing we were talking about before we started recording was the switch from do-it-yourself, the DIYers in their practice with marketing, into really having an ROI, a return on investment mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Take me through the typical do-it-yourselfer, founder, startup mindset person.
Yeah, that is a fascinating question. As you mentioned, I'm a co-founder myself, so this is the third business I think I've started. So I'm definitely intimately familiar with that sometimes very agonizing transition from DIY to needing to outsource stuff, especially marketing. So typically what we see and what I've experienced even in my own journey is at the beginning, we don't have time. Founders don't have time. But technically, we have more time than we have money, usually, unless we've been lucky enough to get, an angel investor or something like that. But most of us that are sole proprietors, single practitioners, when we're starting, we got to do it all, right? We got to answer the phones. We're trying to do social media posts. We're trying to do billing. We're trying to do scheduling. It's crazy. It really is. And so it's hard to say that we have more time than we have money at that stage in our business development. But really, our time is the equity that we're investing in building our business in that stage of business growth. So, you're kind of, like I said, you're doing everything at that time. And I think one of the biggest struggles that we see for people, and again, that we experienced ourselves, is that means it's very fractured, especially your marketing is very fractured. It's incredibly difficult to be consistent in those early years when you're getting bombarded with a million things from every different angle. So, one of the big things that we advocate when you're in that DIY stage is you almost have to book your calendar for times that you're doing marketing and treat it like a client appointment. This is dedicated time. This is me and the computer, and I'm going to do a social media post, or I'm going to, write an email or write a blog. But if we don't treat that marketing appointment on our calendar as sacredly as we would treat a client appointment, it just never happens. There's too much going on, too much hitting us, and we all have great intentions, but just the reality is it doesn't always happen. And so, for those of you who are out there that are in that stage, that are feeling guilt because you keep wanting and to do it and you have great intentions, but it's not happening, you're not alone. In fact, you're in the majority. And we really encourage people to just kind of let go of some of that guilt and just own where you're at in that process. So that's typically like the first and maybe the biggest stage in the DIY world. And that's one of the things that my book, Digital Marketing for Mental Health, tries to address is how do we break all of the complexity down into something that's real that we can actually tackle in the middle of also running a practice. And most of the times when you're a DIYer, you're doing, you're actually seeing patients as well as trying to run the business, as well as trying to do the marketing. And that's a lot. And so we try to demystify the whole marketing thing, because like you were saying before, it is the biggest thing that people typically struggle with, that and billing, right? The financial side. Nobody likes to do billing, but obviously if we don't have funds, we don't have a practice. So we try to break it down in the book to really legit building blocks that you can kind of build your own marketing plan that's realistic for your time frame. And I think that's the second stage of the DIY, is recognizing what you can actually tackle versus what you can't. Because at first, I know I've been guilty of this. We try to do it all. Then we burn out and we realize we can't. So then we have to really be honest with ourselves of what can we tackle versus what we can't, and just let go of what we can't. Because in the marketing world, the most important thing that I tell clients is consistency is key. If all you can do is post one blog per month, that's legitimately all you have time for, that's okay. Just do that and be consistent. It will bear fruit. You can grow, but wherever you are, start there and let the rest go.
I love that. I think that, one thing that we do is with our consulting clients is we have them make a hate list, like the things they
Mm.
just despise doing.
Oh, I love
Um, and, it's things like taking out the trash, or it's like, filling in when the intake assistant is gone, or,
that.
double checking on the billing because they don't trust their billing coordinator. And so many of the things are, they don't have a trusted process, a
Right,
person, or some sort of way to do this, and they've DIY'd it for so long. And I mean, I
right,
resonate with that. Where when I first started Practice of the Practice, it was like, okay, what are the cheap email service providers, like
right.
Mailchimp? But Mailchimp had no live support, so anytime I had a problem, I was
Mm.
chatting with this person who could not help me.
Right.
And it's like, to pay the extra, I think it was $20 a month when I jumped to Aweber. It was like, okay, like the hassle from that, like, what am I doing here? And then it's like you keep
Mm.
reinvesting and realizing that the systems that got you to say 100K are never going to be the systems that get you to $1 million. And the things
Right.
that get you to 1 million are never going to get you to 5 or 10 million.
Yep.
And that idea of thinking about the return on investment for not just your marketing dollars, but even your own time, like where are
Absolutely.
you as a founder most useful? Like,
Mm-hmm.
There's probably some conferences that for you as the CEO, it might be helpful to be standing at the table and meet the influencers
Mm-hmm.
of the conference. Probably not. It's probably better to have, your staff that are doing the sales there, and maybe you're at the VIP things, and maybe you're
Mm-hmm.
doing other things that are a more effective use of your time. So I love that we're starting with just that switch in mindset.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to dive into some of the nitty gritty, because there's a lot of folks that are listening to this that already have, medium to mega group practices.
Nice.
They want to invest, but they've been scammed. I mean, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those types of people. We've, twice now with our Level Up Week, have hired agencies that didn't perform. They for 6 months in the lead up to this huge kind of summit style online thing, we did better when we ran it ourselves. And so it's like we
Wow.
dropped 20K, 30K to
Mm-hmm.
have a marketing agency come in. And it's like, I just throw my hands up and I'm like, okay, I've learned something that I don't like those agencies, but a lot
Right.
of people have been burned. And so let's talk digital marketing. Like, what do group practice owners need to know? What are some of the basics of digital marketing that they should know, that they should at least have knowledge of, not that they're doing it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what's the baseline information they need to have in digital marketing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I my heart breaks at how many people have stories similar to yours. We had a client, a prospect that we were talking with, and they're like, I've paid tens of thousands of dollars to this marketing company, and I'm just not seeing the return. And we're like, well, what were you paying them for? And she's like, well, they were supposed to be doing Google Ads for me. Well, with Google Analytics, we can pull up and see what was done and not done. We can see the reporting, it's public knowledge. Unfortunately, this agency had not created a single ad or ad group in 6 months.
Mm.
They had taken her money for ad management, taken her money saying they were paying Google, and literally had not done a single thing. So, I mean, that's one of the worst ones, but still, it's not uncommon. And so, what you're talking about is, as you've identified, unfortunately, very common in our industry, and it's one of the biggest challenges for us to overcome because we're typically saying similar things to the other agencies. And how do you differentiate yourself and really communicate to clients that we will do what we say we're going to do? And it's part of the reason why we have a guarantee that most agencies don't offer a guarantee, because we're that serious about not taking on clients' money if we can't genuinely help them. So looking for the attitude and the way that the agency approaches marketing is a little bit of a nebulous answer to your question, but I feel like in some ways it's truly the core. Whether they are excellent, they can come out and say a million things. All of us agencies can, rattle off statistics up one side and down the next. And they say numbers don't lie, but it's how you present those numbers that can be the lie or the truth. So numbers aren't as solid, I think, in some ways as we would like them to be, but the culture of the company that you're talking to has got to align with yours. The way the salespeople talk, the the care or lack of care that they're expressing about you as a potential client, about your potential clients. There's and this is not always talked about in business at all, but you got to have a good gut about the person you're meeting with. And I know that's not nebulous, or that's very nebulous, but to me, this is really core. If you don't feel like your values align, even with the salespeople that you're first meeting, I would say shut that meeting down and keep looking until you find an agency that aligns value wise with you. And ask value questions during the sign up. Vet that company online. Do they talk about their staff? Do they talk about their clients in a positive way? Are their staff active on social? Are they engaging with that agency? Is there a positive relationship there? Because if there is, that's more likely that agency is actually who they say they are and are going to do a good job for you. And because their staff want to be there, they're happy to be there. They could be anywhere. They could be doing paid ads anywhere. But if they're staying at this company and doing paid ads there, in my opinion, a happy employee is going to do better work than a disgruntled employee, right? So if the employees are happy, that's almost one of your best indicators that this is a really solid, legit company. Now, you can have agencies that would rather play than do work, but that'll usually come out in their social pretty
Mm.
obviously in the pictures they share, the way they highlight their employees and their clients, what they talk about online in addition to the salespeople can be actually really indicative. So my first response is trust your gut. If you don't feel comfortable working with that person, even their salesperson, keep looking. On the hard statistics, they should be able to give you really good data on what your paid ads budget should be. And a good agency should be able to work backwards from your goals. So if your goals are, I need 8 new clients a month, then a quality agency should be able to reverse engineer that. So they should be able to go, okay, your type of practice in this part of your city, in this part of the county, in this part of the country, Google Analytics gives us enough data to be able to say, then you should be spending this to be able to get this many leads because the average closing ratio in your area is X. So a quality agency should be able to reverse engineer it down that much. Now, they're not closing the clients for your practice, but they should be bringing qualified leads to you. There's always going to be a certain percentage of junk leads with PPC. There's really no way around that with the spam and whatnot. But they should, taking spam into consideration, they should be able to say, with your goal, we reverse engineer it to this. And they should be able to give you a really solid, for example, paid ads number, a budget. And this is really important. You should be paying, as a practice owner, you should be paying Google and Facebook and Instagram, Meta, all those guys. You should be paying them directly. You shouldn't be paying the agency for the ads itself. Paying them a management fee, yes, but paying ads directly, no. That should go directly to them. And the reason for that is that gives an extra layer of accountability for the agency. If our contract says we're spending $10,000 a month in paid ads and you're not seeing $10,000 or pretty close to that come through your credit card every month, then that's a really good double check that the agency's not doing their job.
Hmm. As a therapist, I can tell you from experience that having the right EHR is an absolute lifeline. I recommend using therapy notes. They make billing, scheduling, note-taking, telehealth, and e-prescribe incredibly easy. Best of all, they offer live telephone support that's available 7 days a week. You don't have to take my word for it. Do your own research and see for yourself. Therapy Notes is the #1 highest rated EHR system available today, with a 4.9 out of 5 stars on trustpilot.com and on Google. All you have to do is click the link below or type promo code Joe on their website over at therapynotes.com and receive a special 2-month trial absolutely free. Again, that's therapynotes.com and use promo code Joe on the website. If you're coming from another EHR, Therapy Notes will also import your demographic data quick and easy at no cost, so you can get started right away. Trust me, don't waste any more of your time and try Therapy Notes. Just use promo code Joe at checkout. Now, should the agency be building those ads within your business profile or within theirs?
Typically, we recommend that the agency should be building it within their platform. The reason for this is that it actually reduces a lot of the waste time on the paid ad specialist thing, because otherwise they're logging in and logging out of a million different accounts. So when they can manage it all under one account, it makes, typically we see that the management is more fluid when it's happening like that. Now, if a client is leaving an agency, the agency should be able to transfer that account to the client. So that is an important thing to look for in the contract, to make sure that you own everything that you pay for, at least the finished product, and that the agency will transfer ownership or at least export all the data to you when you leave. Same with the website. If an agency says they own the domain, that they own the content, run for the hills.
Hmm.
You should own your content and you should own your domain. And this is really common in the healthcare industry, especially with really cheap websites, specialty websites. There's a lot of companies out there that they do healthcare billing, they do, your own CRM. And oh, by the way, we'll throw in a website too. 99% of the time, you don't own that website and you
Hmm.
don't own the content. So when you want to transition out and maybe work with a more specialized agency, you're going to have to build a whole new website because that's part of how that level of company keeps their clients locked in.
Yeah, we had a company that we had referred to for a bit that was charging a not only a monthly fee for the website, which wasn't just like hosting, it was like, $100 a month or something.
Mm,
So, someone's paying $1,200 a year for quote support.
right.
And then when people wanted to leave and bring it internal, they had to pay like 2 grand as like an exit fee.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was just like, God, they've paid for this website like 4 times. So,
Yeah.
we
Well,
love to
and
recommend them, but it's
yeah,
like, yeah, these things that you're just like, that is not okay.
no, it's not. And unfortunately, it's insanely common, not just in the healthcare industry, but it is incredibly prevalent in the healthcare industry. And I think, especially within mental health, we have a lot of what we refer to as accidental business owners, clinicians that decided, I'd rather go out and do this on my own, and I think this is a large part of your audience is, you know, they realized I'd rather work for myself, or the clinic they were working downsized or whatnot, and instead of going somewhere else, they're like, well, just how hard can it be? We'll start our own thing. Um, so that's that happens, and a lot of times they when the company that they're already doing their billing and CRM and all that, client patient information portals and whatnot, and when they offer a website, they're like, sure, we'll jump on that. But knowing who owns the content is a really important conversation to have. And if an agency is not being transparent about that, then that's a huge red flag.
Hmm. So awesome. Um, when we're thinking about just digital marketing, what are some other things that we're seeing now? Like I'm thinking AI, I'm thinking
Mm,
like how do we, be strategic with it? Like what are some different things that whether they're working with an agency or not,
mhm.
that they can be thinking about either internally of hiring someone or having an assistant do some of the marketing, or things that they could, be asking the companies they're working with to do.
Yeah, that's great. AI is always a hot topic right now. It is a powerful tool, but it can become a crutch very easily. So, a good question to ask an agency that you're interviewing is, how do they use AI? Are they using AI? An agency worth its salt should be using AI at this point. They should be using AI to help them generate content, written content specifically. So there's been a lot of development and progression around AI recently. So right now, a lot of what people are kind of considered standard in the industry now is that you can have a blog, for example, or social media content that AI helps you write. So think of AI almost as a co-pilot or a ghostwriter, if you will. So what we get out of AI is only as good as what we put into it. So if you're going to try to do it yourself, it can be challenging sometimes to figure out the right prompts and figure out how to ask AI and give AI the right information to be able to spit out something that's worthwhile. But an agency worth its salt should be able to tell you how they're using AI in their departments. For example, one really good thing that we do, we use AI a lot for research and for monitoring different things that are really regular and kind of habitual. So, one example for us is paid ads. One of the biggest challenges when you're managing a lot of accounts, and we have hundreds of accounts that we manage, and some accounts for our bigger clients might have 80 campaigns running on one account. Another account may only have one. So there's a lot of accounts to manage. And every one of those you're having to constantly check to see, are they going over budget, under budget? Because even though we tell Google don't spend more than this, Google still does. They're all over the place. And they're relying on you to call them on it if they go over or under. Well, you can imagine that takes a tremendous amount of time. Whether you're a DIYer who forgets to check because you got fires going all over the place, or you're a bigger agency and maybe you've got 5 or 10 campaigns or 20 campaigns that somebody's trying to monitor, that ends up sapping a lot of time to check into every one of those campaigns. So there's a program called Hawk.ai, for example. And what it does is constantly goes through and monitors all of the campaigns and reports back which ones are where they're at in their budget spend. And it'll flag ones that are getting close. And you can give it certain parameters and it knows what to watch for. So that's a really good example of how an agency should be using AI internally to not replace the expertise that the specialist brings to the table, but to replace some of those repetitive tasks that really don't necessarily take a high level of intelligence, but they take up time. So an agency should be using AI that way. It should be using it to help generate content and ideas and do research. What you want to make sure, though, is that the agency is not copying and pasting what is happening in AI, the content that AI generates, and just pasting it into a blog post or social media. And the reason, there's twofold reason for that. One reason is, according to the most current copyright laws that the US has around AI, which they're woefully inadequate, but they're better than nothing at this point, is that if your content is the majority of your content is AI generated, you don't own that content. Nobody does. So if you use AI or an agency uses AI to 100% write the content on your website, you also don't technically own it. You can still use it, but so can anybody else. They can come and copy your entire website content, paste it into their website, and you can't do anything about it. You can't send them cease and desist letters. You can't shut it down because it's considered open content because AI wrote it, not you, or not the agency. So an agency needs to be able to tell you, we use AI to help generate keyword research, content ideas. We use it to write maybe the rough draft of the content, but then we edit it this much. We humanize it. We make sure it's got statistics and stories and it's true human content. Then it is able to be copyrighted essentially, or to be owned by you as the client. And then you could say nobody can use it. So that's one reason why it's really important to make sure that that the content is being edited and humanized, if you will. The other really important thing to ask the agency is, again, are they humanizing the content? Because AI is marketing to AI essentially, and that's not who's actually showing up and becoming a client. And if we're not humanizing that content and remembering that we're marketing to another human being, we're not marketing to technology, then we'll end up with some really weird content. A scary case in point is that there was a newspaper a year ago or so that was using AI to generate obituaries, which seems a little sketchy to me to begin with, but they were. And somebody was not fact checking and or editing and humanizing the content. And so an obituary went out and AI said this person ceased to be useful.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, right. So it's really important to humanize the content. And really an agency should be leveraging it for those kind of routine things so that what they're spending their time on is the higher level expertise and strategic thinking, that they're then using that experience and strategic thinking to really hone the message that AI generated. So that's a lot of information, but again, you want to engage this potential agency you're interviewing with in how they're leveraging and using AI.
So awesome. Well, the last question that I always ask is, if every private practitioner in the world were listening right now, what would you want them to know?
that you can't do without marketing, but the sooner you can hand over marketing to somebody who's qualified, I would say the better. It is worth the investment when you find the right agency. And so, um, definitely start off DIY if that's where you got to start. But know that it is one of those things that is really worthwhile to hand off to an expert so that you can focus on doing what you do best, which is taking care of people.
Mm, so awesome. If people want to work with you and your agency, where should we send them?
We'd love to have you visit our website at Beacon, like a lighthouse beacon, for media and marketing.com. We've got some great resources there. There's a state of mental health marketing report that people can find on report.beaconmm.com. And you can also access the book that I just put out, Digital Marketing for Mental Health. There's a lot of great resources there. There's a lot of great explanations of the language, marketing language, because that's always a challenge. And you can find that under the resources tab on our website.
So awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the Practice of the Practice podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor.
I'm interested in where you're dipping your toes into marketing. What's that look like? Send us a message on Instagram or Facebook, or drop an email to me. We love hearing what you're doing. We love how people are thinking through their marketing. All this month, we'll be doing all sorts of trainings around marketing, specifically here on the podcast. So it's marketing month here at Practice of the Practice. So make sure you're tuning in. We're doing this 3 days a week, I think, at this point. So make sure you're hanging out with us so you're learning a bunch about marketing. You know, we also couldn't do this show without amazing sponsors like Therapy Notes. Therapy Notes is the best electronic health records out there. They will help you switch over from your current EHR. They also give you 2 months for free or just money off if you use promo code Joe at checkout. They are phenomenal. They help with automated billing. It's going to make it easier to outsource your billing. So many reasons to switch to Therapy Notes. Just head on over to therapynotes.com, read about it, and at checkout, just use promo code Joe. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.